Here you go.
I'm sorry, this
important that the means more doesn't actually make them. There's an element which constrains this project, but
on. Josh had it sussed, and with him not that's the thing, mine is on mute. I am on mute. Yes, if I take that off. Right, take that out. And now have a look.
It's still feeding up a little bit.
Still feeding it now?
Only a little bit though.
I get it. They can't. She's just washed between them. They're going back. She's going back. It's not if you do it yours.
I think so.
The reason why I'm so big. Sorry, I think
This has just gone out on a limb. It has. Is there any feedback? No, I think we, I think.
I'm so prepared. It's all it is. 20 years.
So what do you need to get into?
I just need to get into my emails. I thought I printed everything off.
If you just email it to me, you don't have to log in.
Matt, you might want to turn up the water. It's not hot enough. I've just set mine and it's only.
Which community service awards?
If you forward that to me.
No, that's not it either. She's done it on trim. I can't remember where it is. Oh.
Okay, is everyone at the table? Thank you. Barrington tennis court upgrades. Last time
Yeah,
I
you
came up
can't.
about tennis clubs.
Club last time. God, that was embarrassing. I went down and I went. Oh.
We can say whatever we can look as silly as possible for these 5 minutes. I think we're,
Nobody's shy.
Barrington, which is the one near the Barrington Shops, Potter, the tennis club. You're going to go, Waitangi? I think we're on. Are we on? Yeah.
Yeah. Morning, Koto. Yeah, you're all having a good morning. I think obviously the report is read, but yeah, just a pretty small tennis club. They have got a membership of just over 50, and in particular, a lot of that is because they've taken on board the Filipino Aces, who used to be based at Heckley, but they moved over about 5 or 6 years ago in the club, and then have a pretty good relationship, which has helped increase it, which is great. Pretty astute club. They you know, they manage their finances well with their membership, and they're all pretty dedicated. But yeah, just seeking a little bit of funding assistance to improve their toilets. They do have a few community groups that use it as well. So the Christchurch Marathon Clinic has been using it for a couple of decades at least, as well as the University of Third Age. So just to make hopefully the experience a little bit more enjoyable when you're using their facilities.
This is one example of a club that's got a, I think, is it still Ivan?
Yes.
Yes. And I think he's been 25 years.
Yeah. When they when I met with the club to discuss the application, they'd actually just cleaned out the attic, and that's where they found out. They found some photos from sort of the late 1920s. So the club itself has been around for a really long time as well, which was pretty cool to hear about.
So can I have a mover and a seconder? Mel? Thank you, Callum. Are there any questions to ask of Waitanei? It's only a very tiny sum of money, isn't it? I would have thought for toilets it would be something gigantic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty astute, so I'm sure they would have found a member or something that they're probably doing.
Yeah, it's only extractor fans, really, isn't it? So it's not like they're upgrading a whole toilet block. Yeah. I mean, I don't remember. Like, this seems like a great. There's obviously a great spot for a community facility, essentially, if they're offering it to other groups and things like that. More power to them. I don't remember seeing it on our map, a community facility.
Next door, they've got a bowling club. You
Yeah.
know where the second children's playground is down the other end of Barrington?
Yeah.
They want that for a car park, but that's where they are. They're there. And so,
I know where they are. Yeah.
And so it's the tennis club and the croquet club, which has got an inheritance. So they're better off, and the bowling club, but they're just on the bones.
Yeah. Do you know how many different groups are using the space?
So I think we've got it in the report. So there's obviously the tennis club themselves, the Filipino Aces that affiliate with them, and then University of Third Age and the Christchurch Marathon Clinic. The main users.
Cool. No, fully support.
Any questions? All those in favour, please say aye. Against, abstentions carried. Number 11. Cashmere Technical Football Club Floodlight Towers. Thank you. I found this one a little bit difficult. Could you talk to us about this again?
Yeah, cool. So I've got Angela Leatherby alongside me as well as a sports liaison officer, and works closely with clubs around a multitude of things. Just from
hang on. So your state, you do. Sorry, what did Waitanei just said what you did, but what was it again?
Sport liaison advisor. So I work with all of the regional sports organisations across the city and a lot of the clubs as well.
Are you Christchurch Council?
Yes.
Oh, right. Sorry. I thought you might have been, some, but you're from town.
Yes.
Yes, gotcha. Yeah. Well, that.
I don't live in town.
Where do you live?
Boonhay.
Election time. Oh, no wonder Mel's being nice. Okay, whichever of you two, would you like to explain the issues?
I'll quickly start off and then I'll hand it over to
Yeah.
from sort of a wider network perspective. But yeah, just it was an interesting application, and we did have a lot of to and fro as staff. And for as you'll see in the report, the sort of main reason that we have made the recommendation that we've made is around that. If there was more lights, the ability of the club to activate more people to be active, children and adults, as well as have people be able to be involved within the club, so involved in community is great. I think they mentioned there that there's a couple of hundred players that are not able to train or play as often as they'd like already, and as the sport and sort of the area grows as well, that's probably going to increase. So that's sort of part of where the recommendations come from. And I'll pass it over to Angela to talk about it from sort of more of a networks perspective. Yeah.
Morena. So one of the biggest challenges for this club is the size of them and their geographical location as well. So they go from basically the boundary between Spreydon and Horswell right through to Woolston. They've got 1,600 players, and they're turning players and families away each season. I guess it would be fair to say that across all of football, one of the biggest challenges is lit, dry training space. I just was talking to Lisa the other day. They've got teams that are training at 6 o'clock in the morning just to try and get trainings in. A lot of the teams are only training once a week. They've got teams training through till 9:30 at night. So one of the biggest challenges is that lit space. It is a huge need, and it's a need actually across the city. It's not just for this particular club. I guess with the lighting towers, it's an opportunity that's come along. Our team, so the sports services team at council, is currently working with mainland football and Christchurch, Canterbury rugby, to look at the possibility of some artificial spaces, but we really want to do that from a citywide viewpoint as opposed to each individual club coming to us, which is sort of what's been happening. So that's another extension of it, but their immediate need at the moment is some lit space. So while we don't have an exact location for the lights, I did have a meeting with Cash Tech and the Linwood Kias around the Linwood Village area that's to be remediated on Linwood Park, and have got agreement that they will share that space. So that could be a possible location for some lights.
One of the difficulties, is buying something for which we have as yet no space for it, and it puts us in a bit of a difficult position. You know, I can just see the front page of the paper if you want to make a judgment like that. You know, they bought these lights and then put them in storage. You know, but the other difficulty is this is a giant club which would be even bigger if it took on all the people it perhaps should take on, or all the people who want to be taken on. And yet the possibility of a permanent turf, just for example, artificial turf, which could take and rotate a lot of kids through in terms of getting a game, it seems almost impossible in terms of the cost. Can you give us some idea, just for example, would it be worthwhile this board asking for a briefing on sports, turf, artificial turf and so on, so we could get a grip on the issues that these clubs are facing? Like when we heard from the back row, he wasn't sitting at the table, but he was sitting in the back row, and you know who I'm talking about. You could tell that he knew everything about turf that anybody was ever going to know, and that he had a lot to say about it. But that was 2 minutes from the back row. In other words, this board should have a greater understanding of this club and its needs and demands, and how that we balance that with other issues, and how, for instance, a board can be responsible for an artificial turf that's going to cost millions. You know. So could you talk to us about that? Should we have a briefing to understand the issues of these sports clubs that can't provide?
It's something that I think really does need to be addressed at a city,
That's
at
what,
a higher city level.
Yeah. But we're being asked to deal with this at this level.
Yeah.
So that doesn't balance out.
Yeah. I guess the difficulty is that if it's dealt with individually, you'll end up, it becomes quite like the club's views often can be quite narrow. They're not broad. Artificial turfs are things that can be used for multiple amounts of sports, and I think that that's really what we should be looking to as a city, is multi-purpose dry lit spaces, which is very different to a high level, you know, like what they've put out at Selwyn. It's an amazing space. You can get a lot of sport on it, but is it as multi-purpose as what it could
But if
be?
Selwyn can deal with it, why can't, okay, I understand that. This is a decision for council. I thought it was. I said the other day to the man, you should be going to council, not us. But how do we progress this issue so we don't go round and round the circles like this? And how come Selwyn's got it and we haven't? Is this the building of stadiums?
I can't comment on how come Selwyn's got it and we haven't. But yeah, we don't want to keep going around circles, but yeah, it is one of those things we do need to be looking at it from a city-wide perspective. And yeah, we are internally doing quite a lot of work around it. There's a huge amount of technology that's changing in this space as well. Yeah, so
in the meantime, why should we contribute $10,000 and another board contributes another $10,000 when we don't know where the land is, where it's going to go?
it's a difficulty, but yeah, it's a
Yes.
current need.
Just a quick comment. One of the reasons why it has been brought forward is that they are second-hand light towers, and hence they're at the price that they're at. So it's, you know, it is significantly cheaper than if they had to buy them, you know, brand new. So
Yeah, we understand that. Callum?
Yeah, I think I think you sort of covered it a bit there, Carolyn, but I think if we're looking at the issue of turf, like artificial turf at a citywide level, which is possibly the right thing to do. It might not necessarily solve the issue that this club has, because I think what we had a briefing from them last board meeting, and one of their really key values is like local play areas. And if we end up building a, metropolitan artificial turf, on the other side of town, that doesn't really, I mean, that might be great, but it doesn't really solve their issue of local play areas. But that's just a bit of a comment. My question was around the lights. If we do find a place for them, how are they kind of managed? So are they controlled and turned on and off by the technical club, or are they left on all the time at certain hours, or
so lighting is at the moment the responsibility of the clubs, so they fund it, they pay for the management and maintenance of it. Most of the new lighting has automatic cut-off switches, which generally the boards insist upon. So if the lights are left on, they're not left on all night for the neighbours. They'll automatically cut off at, say, 9:30, 10 o'clock.
Right.
You can program them. So one of the things probably to note too is that it's just the towers, it's not actual lighting. So if it was the lights as well, with the changing technology, I don't think that would be a good investment. But because it's the towers, there's little that's likely to change around the engineering and the structure of those.
Okay. And they sort of work in with other, they'd sort of work with other codes if that was something that they would want to.
Yeah, well, the discussion we're having at Linwood is definitely about that, and they're very, very aware that, and the way forward for all sport really is about being collaborative. It's the only way.
And our experience with lighting is that that's a separate issue, and we'll come back to the board. The board itself will have to say, we want these lights cut off at 8:30 or 9:30 or whatever it is. And also the position downwards, that they're not yet angles. Can someone explain to me, is Linwood grounds around the old Linwood College, is that this board? In the new, so it's Linwood, which is, Coastal Burwood, So so this could these lighting things could well be hearing off to somewhere other board.
The club is.
I know. Mel.
I've got 3 questions. First one is once they're finding locations for the light towers and lights, what would be that process? So the process would be like we've seen before, would need to go through council, would need to do like a cross lease on a lease on the area. What's the process?
So the process is the allocation of the field is something that's done on a biannual basis with our team. So we just allocate the spaces to the sports. For the lighting, there would need to be community consultation, and then the decision comes to the community boards to decide, or whichever community board that they sit in, to make the decision on whether they go ahead or not. So the residents do get the opportunity to feed into whether they're happy with the location or not.
Yeah. So is it relatively unusual for it to be this way around, to have the light towers first before consultation, or
Yes,
not?
it would be fair to say that it is doing things slightly differently.
Yeah. And so what would happen to these towers if we decided not to put funding towards purchase of them?
They won't buy them from the supplier, and it would just mean that the lighting's still a need for them. It's just going to become more expensive once they do find somewhere where they can locate them.
And okay, well, that answers the
So
question.
these are a bargain. What would they cost ordinarily?
It's about a third of it.
Yeah, so it's, I think the 25,000, and we've sort of had the number of sort of 60,000 at a minimum thrown around, but that might even be being a little bit light
with the current supply.
Yeah.
So they're a bargain. Right. Okay, Tim.
So these are the towers that the Hornby Hornets, we strung up a shot. The Hallsville Hornets used to have you. Yeah, no, I know. Boy, am I on thin ice now? I'm going to get beaten up later. So yeah, so that's why they're a bargain. So yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I just really, I think I'm getting that. I just really wanted to double check that there is a really sound reason that we're going to do this before they have that location. That if we like waiting for a location is going to be a problem. Is that correct?
It's not necessarily going to be a problem. It's just we haven't quite got to that step yet. So we know that the lighting is a huge need for this particular club. We know that we do need to find a location for them to put the lights up. It's just that they've found some lighting towers before we've got to that piece of the puzzle. And when we're looking at locations, it's about where their main hub is. Obviously, they want to be able to get kids, especially to their parks as easily as they can. And then it's also about the neighbours as well. So there are some parks, if they're completely surrounded by houses, that you would steer away from lighting. So yeah.
I guess I just have that concern around, I think, Carolyn, you suggested the concern around if we go ahead and grant this money, I'm a wee bit wary about having money tied up in something that may not be getting used for like what sort of time frame are we talking about in terms of location confirmed? Is this like a 6 month, 18 month, 6 month? Where in
Probably
that?
6, okay. I would say, yeah.
Mel? Yeah, okay. She'll think of it in a minute.
Sorry,
Neil Lee.
Without getting too circularly, and that is my, and Karen, I think you summarised it well, that it's just hard to put ratepayer money against something that's got some uncertainty. Can I just, so in terms of what Mel said before, so what it is just a timing thing with count. So is there you've got a site that you're proposing? Is there a backup plan? I'm just trying to get some more surety around if plan A doesn't work, that have you got a few different options that you can look at in terms of?
One of the biggest challenges for this particular club is the area that they're in, and a lot of the fields that they have allocated to them are in underneath the hills, and they're quite wet parks. So you've got the likes of Beckenham, Hanson's not great. Centennial is a bit dodgy, and they use that for their main program. So that the process is really about finding the right site for them. At this stage, the Linwood Village is looking like a really good option.
They are quite a well-resourced club, so I'm just trying to think of another hypothetical. What if we just found it too hard to actually put ratepayers' money against this, and said, but we would, once they found the site, we'd be able to invest in, so we can't make the decision, just hypothetical. If we couldn't make this decision today, we could still support them further down the line because they are well-resourced as a club in terms of, that is correct, isn't it? In terms of
they are
their dollars and cents.
Being a licensed club, Watney got some breakdown of the financials.
So while they do, their accounts are healthy at the moment, their accounts are fairly recent, so they have had subscriptions come in, so they have a significant amount to go to mainland football and NZ football, which is over $150,000.
It's about half the subs go straight to mainland and New Zealand football.
I think, and this could be a perception thing, so sorry, I'm probably making a statement here, but I feel historically that club has probably not had the equity of investment, and because of the problems with investing in their pitches, like you've said, because they're waterlogged. I just see Ferrymead that had the FIFA under-19s pitches investment. I've seen other clubs, so I think that's what's swaying me here a little bit, that this club hasn't had the investment, but it is hard for us. I'm just trying to orchestrate.
If we said no, for example, they would still buy them, and we could then look at an investment that was going to be more palatable to the frontline pages of the paper next year, and be.
The club's indicated that if they don't get the funding, they can't buy them
because they're even though they've got $500,000 in the bank, they can still. Everything is spent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they've got 500,000, but as I said, 150. Well, I don't even know if they've got 500,000 to be honest, but they, 150,000 of that straight away to mainland football, NZ football. I think 120,000 of that is an insurance payment for Beckenham Pavilion, so that's already tagged.
God.
They already have sort of equipment and post costs that they've already tagged for this year.
Oh,
That's sort of around 2025.
We're going to spend it. Yeah.
Sorry, is there any safeguard we can put that we say if this asset isn't utilised, that it's actually the ownership or interim ownership relies with council? I just don't want it to be that they do sit in a container for 2, 3, 4 years. Is there a safe net we can put in here that we can support the club, but if the club for some reason can't get a site, that we've still got some safeguarding, or can we explore that at least under some caveat?
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
That we own it, but along with Hornby Horsewell, we own it. Linwood, we own it.
Yeah.
Just temporarily.
Yeah, I mean, given that we are looking at some options around the artificials as well,
Yeah.
and you would always
Let's have
like
a look what
those
we
if
can
we
say
put them
there.
in. That would be
Can we have a
another
look at
place
these?
that they could be utilised. If they
Yeah.
What does the board, Mel, I know you're going to ask another question, but it seems to me that we're starting to go round and round here.
Yeah.
What say in theory that we bought it or put the 10,000 in and bought it, but retained ownership?
Spot within, say, I don't know, 18 months, 2 years, then the ownership reverts to the community board to then work with council staff and the club to find a place. Because what are we going to own? We're going to own posts. The club wants to use them. We want to find a place for
Yeah,
them.
you're
The club
right. The
wants to
club's
find-
not going to muck around with them.
To
Okay,
be
no,
fair, and to be fair, the last time they came to us, when they had the issue with regards to storage, they were all under control and ready to roll. They'd come up with a solution, go landscape, etc.
Mm.
It was the council process that's, what, 3 years?
Yeah.
Still hasn't done anything?
no,
So just saying.
that's dead right. Yep, no, I reckon let's have some good faith with the group that's quite influential in our area in terms of the number of kids it has, and the number of kids of our kids. I think we just.
I was hoping to tell you that the numbers are going to increase now that we've made it into the World Cup qualifiers, but we didn't. But the women's
only because of just incredibly bad refereeing.
But the Women's World Cup is here, and that is going to generate a huge
Yeah.
amount of interest in the game.
Let's exercise some goodwill, and because I think we've been round the houses now. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Tim, seconder. Keir, don't let's muck around. It's on the table now for this is discussion amongst us now. It's on the table. I thought your idea was a good one. It's not really. Where are we going to put the damn things? Yeah, and yeah.
We don't want to use the mechanism, but it's just the surety of ratepayer model.
Yeah, I know, but let's just go for it. I'd like to put something in, but I think it's only for the public arena that we'd put something in about it. I think we argued it. I think we can all say we've legitimately asked all the questions that we should. This is a club that's important to our community.
I've heard a strong intent to make this happen. And
Yeah.
that's what's got me
Yeah.
over the line with this.
Yeah. Yes, go for it, Matt.
Through the chair, thanks very much. Your debate here today is very, very similar to what the staff debate was between both boards. We discussed this at length for an extended period as well, explored all of what you've discussed also, but came back to the same kind of conclusion in terms of the recommendation. So just to let you know, thank you.
Yeah, and Watanabe's you've more or less said that on the quiet as well. Yeah. Thank you very much, everybody. No, is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Abstentions? Pardon? You're abstaining, Mel. I thought about that as well. One abstention, carried. Do you want your name in the minutes? Okay. Okay. Yeah. So one abstention, that's all. Yeah. Carried. Okay. Next one is area report. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
I think that was a good discussion, actually.
Thanks very much. I'll take the report as read. Just want to acknowledge the staff effort in preparing the report. I'm obviously happy to take any questions.
I thought I had some here. There's a heck of a lot in here.
Yeah, obviously just a wrap up of what the staff have been up to and what the board have been up to. So
I didn't realise that the council had taken over the gardening at the old stone house.
It's the
Matt,
tenant gardens team that's doing it.
So if we go issue by issue, because it's very comprehensive, this report, and so looking at page 89 and 90, the Summit Road, the wheelchair accessible track at Victoria Park's been upgraded. Good on them. Community parks and so on through Sydenham Cemetery footpath. I'd just like to say, just because I think parks are not doing us a service. They removed rubbish bins without any discussion with the community at all. And then towards the end of last year, the head of parks said that from now on, if it was a renewal, if it was deemed to be a renewal in parks, they weren't going to consult with the community. So they put a hard footpath all the way around Sydenham Cemetery, but haven't addressed the issue of flooding in that corner of the cemetery that we've been asking for 15 years. And they put this hard footpath in where there was gravel before, which leaches into the aquifers. I really think the board may want to, in the new year, want to be addressing issues around parks at some stage or another. I think this lack of consultation with the community is going to have consequences. I don't know. I think there's already a feeling out there in the community that why should we pick up dog poo if there's no rubbish bin to put in? I see it myself, and so do lots of people that I talk to walking the dog. I just wonder about this and whether it's going to have consequences in the future. Well,
actually, in fairness, the process was bad. There's no question. You cannot argue that. But the new bins that are in are bigger and more intelligent, or meant to be, etc. But if people aren't going to walk an extra 100 meters or whatever with a bag of dog poo, it really doesn't say much for saving the world with climate change, does it? You can comment like that all you like, but we all do convenient things. I'm bringing my dog poo home now and then leave it in my blasted coat for 3 days before it... No, well, you do. You do. I just think in terms of council relationships with its community, it is a pain to consult, but I think Parks is going in the wrong direction. Absolutely. And over there, you're absolutely right. And it hacks me off. The tennis club markings, that the staff didn't respond too well about doing up the car park. Spreydon. And so I've just wondered if we wanted to follow up about that. They said that they may look at the markings for the mobility car park, but that they weren't going to be doing anything about the car park. There's mobility for sure, but the hall upgrade. Yes, they weren't doing anything about it as part of the hall upgrade. I just wondered. Yeah, no, that's what I said. Except for the mobility car parks, they weren't doing anything else about the car park. No. Yeah. We may, in our ward, we should be perhaps talking to the Kiruru Club, who are hosting the
who are the club that are taking over the hall?
Was there a
Suburbs, who are hosting suburbs. Perhaps we should be talking to that group of people about their area and their car parks.
But in the scope, there should be a bit of escalation built in there. Why don't we say that we see as a board that this is, part of it?
Personally, I'd like to address it.
But I mean, well, could staff just ask the question and
Yeah.
if there is any insurance in there with regards to the escalation of costs, and
Yeah.
maybe we could use it as transferred away rather than putting it back in the bank.
Well, I don't know. Do you know anything about the upgrade of Coronation Hall? Because they haven't been back. We don't know the latest design. We have no idea of the configuration of the final configuration. Yeah. Can you? It would be good to see them, and so that we can ask about the car park and ask about the final design, because they had very expensive toilets proposed, but which I think are the way to go in terms of toilets. And it would be useful to know if that's the way they were going in the hall design. Thanks, Watane. Community actions associated with Cashmere Primary School. If you had a look at that, I see that they're doing a pedestrian crossing outside the school. I think that's done, but I'll leave it at that for the future. Yeah. Yeah. The submissions on the draft housing and business choice, the hazards, draft coastal hazards, and the heritage man's there. Can I just comment? In the end, me and staff did the submissions on our own, and I asked for contributions from the board, and they weren't forthcoming. But I think in the new year, you may want to establish a submissions committee, because it's difficult doing submissions completely on your own. It's not the words that are hard. It's having a sufficiency of ideas about the issues at hand. And I felt a bit pushed on that issue, doing it with a brand new staff member on our own. And it wasn't much fun, actually. So if you could have a look at how a different way of doing that in the new year on how you do submissions. Mary Hill Kia Crossing. Any issues with that? I don't think the school will sustain a Kia crossing on Mary Hill Ave myself. Nothing? Is there? If there's a report, is there? That's great. And the Howard Street, Simeon Street intersection.
I realise that, obviously Waka Kotahi have changed the, know that they've added that pathway to permanence part into the whatever they're calling the tactical urbanism program these days. But it is a bit frustrating that it seems like there's very limited, it seems like there's actually really quite limited projects across the city that have been identified. I mean, realistically, Lichfield, Gloucester and Worcester, that's like one project. And then the local cycleway connection, Avonside to Wainoni, I would have really loved to see if even some of the local cycleway connectors that we have in our books could have been considered. So it's a bit, I guess, I'm not sure if there's anything that we can do at this point, but it's just a wee bit of a, I guess, a bit of a disappointment that it does look like that's basically, are we getting the most out of this program that we can as a council? Because I think we are always talking about how there's lots of projects that are in the out years of the LTP that we would love to bring forward. And anyway,
did you see the news this morning on cycleways and the escalation of costs? It's just extraordinary. The escalation of costs.
Yeah. Kiwi Rail's fault, apparently. I'm sure that's, isn't that what all councils say? It's always.
You may. Mel.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, Kia, but the thing with Waka Kotahi is or the funding that we get from government, sometimes it's you know, for things that are in the LTP and already planned. And then other times it's like, well, you can't have planned that already. This is for extra new things that are additional. So that's a bit odd. But actually, I mean, these sorts of projects, I just can't see how they can cost that much and why
No.
we can't just actually just get on and do this stuff anyway. Because I mean, $5,000 in a community could do this or something cheap, you know, it's really not, it's a bit of paint and a bit of something to get started. I don't see where the costs are apart from obviously staff time to make sure they're safe.
Is there anything you could suggest on this? I'm like, do we want an update from staff or would that be just a waste of their time?
I wonder if we could ask if there's some sort of extremely cost effective method for us to be able to progress these sorts of projects on a whole, but I guess this particular one, because it's been brought forward to the board.
I would have thought the one on Cashmere Road was going to be cheaper. There's room there for the building of a cycleway. And I would have thought it was cheaper. I can't see it's much more cost than tarmac. No. In fact, the footpath's wide enough for a blasted shared path there. No, yeah. How would you like to deal with it? Do you want any? I know.
I mean, I think we should do whatever we can to explore options for this in terms of, you know, if not from the if not from this Waka fund, from another source within council, or whether it's, you know, safer, I don't know, minor safety, safe routes to school, whatever it is. But
Matt,
yeah.
what do you recommend? How would we further a discussion on this that might result in some action?
I'll be getting a briefing.
Okay. Should we ask them to come in? We haven't seen them for a while.
Can I just make a comment? This memo was only in response to one of the actions that the board requested. So that was investigating the safer streets option. The substantive rest of it, investigating other options, is still there as an action for staff.
Oh, okay, right.
From
Okay.
From the original deputation, it's
Okay.
still there.
Okay.
This was only one part of
Okay.
of it.
Okay, well, can we have some staff and then before the election to discuss it? Because actually, that's the point. It's not, I'm not trying to further your election aspirations, but it is an issue, it is an issue that will come up in the public, and it's an issue that we should know about.
Yeah.
Okay, and I don't even want to talk about this, but it's just like everything else. Anything you want to say about the roundabout? Kier? Tim? Okay.
I did meet with a couple of people that everyone's actually really on board with this one in Smartens, which is great. They've been waiting a long time for it, so
yeah,
that's really positive.
And can I just say out loud that the Summit Road Society and Marie Gray in particular, their submissions were just on all the issues were just exemplary, and they are wonderful contributors to our area. And the new board should be looking at getting the Summit Road Society in again to discuss what they're doing in the coming year, because man, they are influential. We've got the River Network and the Summit Road Society in our ward, and they are fantastic contributors to the community. And it would be good for board members to get to know them and be able to keep up to date with them and further their interests. Because Marie Gray, man, the work that she does is phenomenal. So that's great. So can I have a mover and a seconder for the area report? Thank you, Mel. Thank you, Callum. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, abstentions, carried. Members exchange. Tim.
Following Annabelle's, the Waihoro River, Heathcote River Network kind of coming to council, I got and had a few words with them, and I got them in touch with Anne Newman at the Adventure Park. So they've had a meeting. So Anne was going over all the things they're doing, etc., which was a really productive meeting, and they're looking at using that facility for doing some of their meetings.
Yeah.
And the court case was, I think, last week or the week before, and the findings could take up to 3 months to come through with regards to the fire.
Oh, who's responsible for the fire? The lifts, I mean, that court case.
Yep.
I'm not going to ask you. how it's gone.
No. Well, I don't know anything about that. It's just that the could be 3 months before the decision.
Contrary to my expectation, in the middle of the COVID, etc., the adventure park seems to be doing okay.
Yeah, look, it's working really hard with the community, etc., as it always has, and it's for something that's because it was nearly absolutely ultimately destroyed. It just shows how popular it is, and you go there because I just catch up with them every now and then to see how it's going because it's close to my heart. But what the funniest thing is when you drive in there and they've got a wee pump track for the wee kids, and mate, you nearly wet yourself. They're so funny, and like some of those wee kids, you just actually don't want them to move on. I could think their parents would be having heart attacks.
If you go there to have a coffee, they're the entertainment.
Without question, it's hilarious to watch. It's wonderful. And then,
mind you, I love seeing the guys coming down the hill. If they did a header or two, it'd be even better, more entertaining.
I do know when we were there, and my nephew, these guys were coming down. Suddenly they were getting this insane ear, like it was just you can't. And then I found out one of them was my nephew. I was like,
So, anything else? Good, nice and brief, Lee. I know you were preparing yourself, Mel. I have to brace myself. I know you've got a bloody list.
You stole my thunder.
Yeah.
After the last board meeting, Melanie and I went to the AGM for the Summit Road Society. So
go for it.
Yes, no, but just I'll just echo exactly what you said. That organisation are doing some tremendous work. It's great to see Bill Woods get some recognition as well, the QSM recently, and Marie deserves the same or more. So it's not. Her role shouldn't be a part-time role. It's full-time and more. It's almost 2 roles, the amount of work they're juggling at the moment. So just kudos to that organisation. That's all I want to
If
say.
other organisations knew the quality of her work, they'd never.
Exactly. We want to keep her.
Yeah. She's brilliant. Yeah. Oh God, I had something, but I can't remember what it was. Go ahead.
Just went out to the Cashmere Stream planting session over the weekend, which is funded through the government's Jobs for Nature program, which is just cool to see that kind of actually getting out there and getting done. But I was going to say, bumped into Malcolm from OHRM, and he is quite keen to come in.
He's brilliant.
So I think maybe following up from some of those conversations with the Adventure Park, he's keen to come to the board and have a conversation about some of the stuff how we can, I guess, keep encouraging some of the Adventure Parks work on sustainability and stuff, just so that, there's a good wraparound. So that was cool just to make that connection, and I've suggested he comes along for a public forum. And
can you ask him for next time? It would be good to have one before the election because it's been a while since we heard from Annabelle, and it would be good to have Malcolm.
I shall pass that on. That they're in demand. And there was also a gentleman from Cashmere Tennis Club who was there who wanted to explain how the Cashmere Tennis Club is often a flashpoint. And I smiled and nodded and tried to avoid letting on that I was on the community board. Next thing, there was this one time we painted something blue, and I thought,
God,
I've heard all about that one. Don't you worry. But no, it was a really and slightly outside of the ward, but nice to see that the people in Holswell are going to keep the water clean before it gets down to us.
I haven't got anything to add. I walk in the quarry every morning, and I just wanted to. Oh no, I know the bit that I wanted to say was, aren't we lucky having that 100 acres being planted with 100,000 plants on between Sparks Road and Sutherland's Road come to fruition. I think we are just so lucky. It's on the margins of our ward, and it's really in Horsfall, but thank God for it. The council did a remarkable job that it won't get congratulated for by the general public in creating these floodplains. And because they're going to be an absolute asset for our community. And given the housing that's going in up there, that 100 acres is going to mean a lot for the community. It's just it'll be a massive blessing, and it will take pressure off the quarry, whose popularity is just means it's got hordes over the weekend there. That's all I wanted to say actually was that. Mel.
Following from Lee, remember one time we wrote a card to different people who had been honoured in those awards.
Yeah.
I wondered if we should send one to Bill.
Yeah, and
I mean, we all kind of
Yeah.
know him.
he did actually. Oscar, I'm not going to say a word. Go ahead.
But could we write a card to Bill?
Yeah, we could.
Yeah, thank you. And follling on
Can
about
you remind me
the
of that?
wonderful Marie, I had seen that she's actually talking at the OHRN, the River Networks annual AGM next Tuesday at 7. So they've got Marie as a guest speaker talking about Avoca Valley.
There are 2 meetings that night. I think there's Beckenham and the OHRN, and there's another one as well. So what time's the OH?
7 o'clock on Tuesday next week
Where?
here at South Library.
Okay.
I presume the other end, but I don't know.
Next Tuesday.
Yep, 28th of June. I was told yesterday by some people that live in Stable Court Lane that there are people dumping rubbish by Spreydon Tennis Club, like there, I don't know exactly where. It sounded like it's over their back fence. I don't know if it's in the court or where, but there's people getting in, and the man was asking about how the gate used to be shut. I don't know when in the history of that car park, but I wonder if we could actually find a wee bit of information about that.
You're talking about the car park again. The car park.
Yeah.
They couldn't possibly close the gate.
He reckons it used to be, they've been there, I don't know.
No, but the Kiruru Club has social functions almost every night.
I don't know, but it sounded like it used to be, so it might be
Yeah.
something we could ask. The wonderful Jonathan, the arborist, has been to visit the people on Hoonhay Road about the eucalyptus trees in Centennial Park and agreed to have those pruned. So they are pleased about that. Muscovy ducks are keeping on, and the Kiki Terrace is back to 30. I've been contacted again, and the bird enthusiast is going back to have a look, but he said that last time actually it was really hard to collect all the birds because they were very wary of him. So
Mel,
I was very, very polite in my email, and normally I get Joe to do it, but Joe's not here, so I took it on myself to email him direct.
Mel, can I just say that if anybody in Christchurch, of all the towns in New Zealand, asks for ducks to be removed, we say no.
Well, the other thing is that it has been
We
brought
give
up-
the Mel's number.
brought up with me that, having lots of ducks in the waterways is not a good thing. So there is many ways.
What
to
are
look
you
at this
going to do
issue.
about it? Have a midnight shoot?
No. Waimakihi Terrace.
I know.
Next, I've been told that people are not keeping to the 30 Ks in Selwyn Street. People think, the person I talked to think, how we put the 30 Ks in that section. The person I was talking to thinks that people just don't know it's a 30K area until they're pretty much driven through it because it's so short. And I sort of explained about the Selwyn Street Master Plan and the funding's on there for next year, but I don't know anything about how that's progressing, but it's all part of a wider plan, but also for school students and things like that. But I just wonder if it maybe could be assessed or some way, or enforcement, or I don't know, or do signs need to be bigger, or I don't know. But
Could we ask about the Selwyn Street plan for next year?
yeah, I would like to know about
Yeah.
that. And maybe do we never get feedback about these 30K areas or 40K areas, and whether how many tickets have been given out or anything. We never get anything.
Yeah.
I bet you there's none.
Yeah, but anyway,
So can we ask about the Selwyn Street plan and include in that a comment about the 30K
Selwyn Street Master Plan.
master plan? Yeah.
Well, I remember when we went ahead with that, when we approved that 30K thing. That was one of the things we asked for, was ongoing, was at least some feedback, some monitoring of it. So it would be good to get, even if they just ran some tubes across the road.
And I guess it doesn't help that the plans that we had didn't get fully implemented for the
No.
recent, yeah. And finally, the stadium is quite a large issue at the moment. I was wondering if the board is able or wanting to write a submission amongst the tens of thousands of submissions that there will be. But it was something I wondered if the board might want to think about, if they're even allowed to. I don't know.
Can we have a view on this?
It is a very complicated issue and it's very difficult to make a good decision, and we all look like we have no idea what we're talking about, but it's because it's quite tricky.
If the board decided we could have a quick half-hour board meeting, maybe even on Zoom, to discuss it. Does the board want to make a submission on it? Yeah, yeah. I was thinking I'd write in as an individual, but I don't know if I'm allowed to.
Yeah, maybe decline. I've written a submission personally.
Have you? I was thinking of doing a personal one
Yeah.
myself.
I hate to say it, I don't think that, how to put this tactfully, I'm unsure that given the volume of submissions, that putting a substantial amount of time into one would be a particularly productive, because I hate to say it, but I doubt that the councillors will be reading all 10,000 of them.
No, they won't.
So 15.
Yeah. No, but I'm putting in, I was putting in an individual submission. Okay, leave it at that, all
I
right?
think we have got a obligation to just put it out for our board letter and just make sure, not that people don't know about it, but just make sure we're doing what we can to make sure the conversation
Okay.
is happening.
Yep, put it in the board newsletter. Okay, anything else? Yeah.
I just remembered, nothing of particular importance, but I went to Dennis O'Connor's 80th. And
Why wasn't I invited? I've known him for 50 years or something.
there were not many there, but his wife asked, Fiona asked me to read out the speech that we delivered as a board to him on the community board, for his community board award.
Yeah.
So that was nice to be able to have a few more people hear it than just him and his
That's
immediate
right.
family. Yeah.
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 Well done, you.
Yeah.
Ha! God, I bet I missed an invitation because he would not have invited me. I feel
Quite possibly.
embarrassed as hell. I bet I've missed it. Oh, I'm going to get a card on behalf of the board and say belated. He's a servant to the community. That's all he's ever done, is serve the community. Can you remind me of that?
Well, I
Yeah.
met him
And I'll
when
just-
I was quite young.
remind me to
And he was,
get a
I
card.
know,
I'll
it was
get
a
a
long time
card.
ago, but he was a union delegate, so he was our
Yeah.
union boss. Or
Yeah.
Not, like,
No, he's one of, I knew him as a union delegate because I was a union organizer. Yeah.
he wandered in with this lovely gentle voice, and here he is with a whole lot of riggers and welders and that swearing,
That's all he's ever
Oh.
done, is serve the community. It's just that's all he's ever done. I will send him a card on behalf of the board, congratulating him on his birthday and belated congratulations. I'm sorry we didn't know. Okay, I'll get that. Anything else? Okay. I haven't got anything, no. So the meeting is closed. Can we have, no, I'll tell you what, I'll let you off the hook. We'll do it at the end of the public excluded, your karakia. The public excluded is not going to take so long, okay? Can I have a notice of motion to move into public excluded? Moved Kier, seconded Callum. We are now in public excluded. We are looking at